Swara Bhasker joins me. Swara, thanks for being on NDTV. Just to ask, just about say maybe a few months ago, not many people had even heard of Rhea Chakraborty. Now the young actor is a national villain. What would you like to say on her arrest today?
Well, I mean, I haven't sort of followed the day-to-day update of the case, but I have heard that she has been arrested by the Narcotics Bureau on the sort of allegedly for procuring weed, perhaps. I don't know too many of the details, and I don't want to comment very much. I'm sure that whatever the law says, and as per the law, she must have been arrested accordingly. My understanding, of course, is that the NDPS Act is a very sort of fact-specific act, and there is a lot of very detailed facts to do with whether the quantity of the amount of the drug in whatever it is you're using, whether it's for commercial use or it's for recreational use. So I'm sure that those are details that will emerge. Obviously, I do not endorse the use of drugs or psychotropic substances or any kind of drug abuse and substance abuse. But I think that I will say that it seems that Rhea had been pronounced guilty by a media trial many weeks ago, and it seems that and I'm saying this as public, we were just waiting for her to be arrested for any reason. And when murder, abetment to suicide, money laundering, siphoning of funds, and other such charges that were laid at her doorstep failed, and when other three central agencies were not able to find anything, I guess what we as a rather voyeuristic audience I think are now going to have to be satisfied with is that she's going to be arrested for buying pot.
Arrested for buying pot. You're saying that's almost a logical conclusion of people baying for her blood. You mentioned media also. I can't disagree with the way it's become almost some parts of the media as a lynch mob. But just to ask, because her lawyer issued a statement today calling it a travesty of justice. He would presumably say that because he's Rhea's lawyer. But he made the point that three central agencies, the CBI, the Enforcement Directorate, the Narcotics Bureau, all investigating this one woman. Do you think they're looking for a politically convenient victim? What do you think were the larger issues at play here?
Absolutely. I think that Rhea has been, I'm really sorry to say this, but I think that what she has been subjected to is absolutely horrifying. And as a young person from that industry, it's very relatable, and it's very scary that the fact that the sort of like social media allegations and the rantings of one or two social media verified, blue tick mark verified accounts could actually lead to a person getting caught and being accused of such serious crimes. I mean, we're talking about money laundering. The ED is investigating this young woman. I mean, this is the people who should be bringing back, right, Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi, right? Am I right? But what are they investigating? I mean, the CBI is supposed to do like these really serious cases, right? And this is what they are investigating. So I think what has happened with Rhea is shameful. It's shocking, and I think no one is innocent in this. We're all responsible. The media, of course, has played a huge role, and I'm sorry I'm sitting on a television media platform channel and saying this, but when we used to say till a few years ago that TV journalism and electronic media is afflicted with an illness. I think that this case has proven to us that most TV journalism, barring very few honorable exceptions, I think TV journalism is dead. It's dead. And I think that I would also lay the blame in very large part on us as news consuming audiences, because what has happened is that this case has gotten stuck in a vicious cycle of TRPs. I was reading an article about how even when reporters within news news channels don't want to cover this news. They're being forced to cover this story because the TRPs are going through the roof every time the story is covered. So in a country where we are faced with a pandemic, where our caseload of virus cases is the second highest in the world, where we have the highest number of daily cases in the world, our GDP has contracted by 23%. China is in our territory. Apparently, there were gunshots were fired today. Unemployment is rife. We, as an audience, are obsessed with whether or not a girlfriend was responsible for the suicide of her boyfriend. I think that this speaks volumes about our voyeurism, our shamelessness, our utter lack of any kind of decency, rationality, logic, empathy, kindness, and frankly, even our self-interest. I mean, we don't want to know about the issues that will affect our lives. We're more interested in Bollywood gossip and random.
No, absolutely. And in fact, Swara, just to ask on that, and you said TV journalism is dead. Well, I don't want to go as far as that, but yes, I agree that the journalism practice, I wouldn't call it journalism, is in this by many people has been terrible, but let's not get into that. Let's get into what also are the larger political issues here. I mean, it's not just about media channels, it's about the fact that two states were fighting each other. It became about the Bihar police versus the Mumbai police. It went to the Supreme Court. Even today we see the Mumbai police and CBI almost at cross purposes. And you talked about mass hysteria. The main issue also being about, has she become a pawn to divert from the real issues which you discussed as well, the corona cases, what's happening on the board, on the LSE with China. Why aren't we talking, why is no one interested in the real issues anymore? And that includes the viewers.
I mean, I can only speak as an observer, as a layperson and as an audience, but it definitely seems to me that the interest in this case is motivated. As I said, one, it is motivated by a voyeuristic and rather shameless audience, in which I count myself, a news watching audience. And I think that, and I really want to say, and I know I'm repeating, but I want to say this, as educated people, we should be ashamed of ourselves. We should be ashamed of the kind of mob justice and this mass hysteria that we have encouraged and we are participating in. I think that it helps the media, especially the Godi media channels, to sort of have an excuse to cover something salacious and not have to cover issues where they'll actually have to do real journalism and ask real questions. I'm sure someone in politics is benefiting from this. I know that the Bihar elections are around the corner. I can't say for certainty, but I find it very interesting that the very same party that was and members of the party that had a problem with Sushant's film Kedarnath because it allegedly showed a Hindu girl, falling in love with a Muslim boy, and it was allegedly love jihad. The people who banned that film and demanded the ban for it are today printing posters in Bihar and saying ki Sushant tumhe bhulenge nahi. So I think that it's very obvious that there's a lot of people whose vested interest and other agendas are being served by this case, and it seems to me that Rhea has been made a scapegoat, and I really want to say that kudos to her, and kudos to her integrity for having complied with the entire investigative process and for having admitted to whatever habits that are now landing her in a situation where she has been arrested. Kudos to the integrity of that girl and kudos to her strength. I do not understand how she's holding up and how she and her family are sane. What we have put this family through it's frankly, it's criminal.
No, Swara, and I think it's important that you speak out because so few people have spoken out in terms of just what the family is going through. And in fact, her father is a retired army surgeon. Today, his daughter and his son are both under arrest by the Narcotics Control Bureau. We don't know what the charges so far seem to be about getting drugs for Sushant, but let's see what that unfolds. But the father actually put out a statement saying, congratulations, India, you've destroyed a middle-class family. The whole real issues of mental health have been completely swept under the carpet. In fact, when I interviewed Rhea last week, she talked of her own family and how they almost feel that they should die by suicide because of what they're going through and how they've been targeted.
a very tacky and very bad film, may I say. Very tacky and predictable screenplay of the film that has been written by the media and by the audiences together. I think there are two things that you're talking about. One, of course, I just want to say that it is shameful. It is shameful that we have reduced, and for a country that goes on and on about the army, that uses the army whenever we feel like, and my father has retired from the Indian Navy, he's been a Fauji, so this is also personal to me, for a country and for our politics that just uses the army as and when they please, to put an army officer, a retired army officer, a veteran, through this kind of thing. And his statement is just absolutely heartbreaking. The kind of insinuations that have been made against the whole family, against the father himself, by some of our leading so-called editors and journalists, it's disgusting. And may I say that almost everything that has been said, probably everything that this family has been accused of, has no proof. So it is all cooked up allegations and accusations, and it's nothing but a mirror into how sick our own mind is as a society. I think the father's statement was heartbreaking. I think that when Rhea on your channel and in the other interviews that she said that the whole family feels like committing suicide, I mean, what can be more damning for us than that this is what we're reducing a possibly innocent family to. The second issue, as you very rightly said, is that Sushant, by ostensible all the evidence that we seem to have even right now, it seems like he was someone who was suffering from mental health issues, bipolar disorder, depression, and he commits suicide. His death was extremely tragic. He was a highly talented, very successful Bollywood actor. Yes. I want to put this on the record. Everyone who's trying to make it out to seem like Sushant was struggling. Sushant was not a struggling actor. Sushant's last film made more than 200 crores. Mm-hmm. He was a success story. He had the kind of success that I have not had in 11 years of being in the industry. So let us remember Sushant as a huge success. Unfortunately, he had mental health issues, because he too is a human being like all of us, and exactly. Anyone can have mental health issues. His tragic suicide should have, the debate that media should have been having was on mental health, exactly. Was on the stigma around mental health, because one of the things that everyone who's close to Sushant has said is that he was so worried about the fact that his bipolar order would be discovered and that would damage his career. Mm-hmm. That says something very deep about the stigma in our society around mental health. And what have we done? We have reinforced that stigma 100 times over in the way in which we have reacted to his suicide. So testimonies of people coming and saying, no, he was not depressed, he looked so happy. And, exactly. And commenting on his weak mind or his strong mind or whatever. This is all highly dangerous. And I really wish that, practitioners of psychologists, psychiatrists and practitioners of mental health in India would speak up, because we're doing something very dangerous as a society for other people who are suffering with mental health issues. Who's going to want to talk about their mental health situations now that we have stigmatized it so much? Exactly. I mean, if we cannot accept that a Bollywood star who was rich and successful could be depressed, and we cannot leave him alone even in death, how are we going to treat the living people who are normal people who are suffering from mental health? What empathy can they expect from us as a society? So absolutely agree with you that the debate should have been about mental health and not about Mahesh Bhatt and Alia Bhatt and Karan Johar and Rhea and who had an affair with whom and all kinds of salacious nonsense. Yeah, it's really sickening.
No, and I think that point is important, that his last film was a huge success. Mental health has nothing to do with how successful or unsuccessful you are, and that's really what we're not discussing at all. But also, what's extremely worrying, and Swara, I want to ask you this, because Rhea, again, when she talked to me last week, talked about the horrific death and rape threats she was getting, and this was even before she was charged with anything, but how she was treated as a vamp, she was getting rape threats, date threats, death threats. You face this as well in a very vicious way. Even others, young women who speak out, even Kangana Ranaut, though she's the opposite end of the political spectrum from you, that the vilest kind of abuse, threats of death, threats of rape against women today. There's a whole misogyny which is also part of this whole narrative around Rhea today.
I mean, it's obviously horrendous. We've become a society that is where it's acceptable to abuse women and with things that are actually criminal, and to threaten them with crimes on social media. It's become an accepted part of our political discourse, and I really want to say that this is something that has been actively encouraged by the political culture of the last 6 years. The idea that if someone is saying something that you don't like to hear, it's okay to shut them down in any way possible is really a political is a culture of public discourse that has been actively encouraged in the last 6 years by the dominant political culture in this country. And I think obviously it's hugely problematic. And I mean, of course, I have been going through it for the last 6 years, and I mean, you learn to live with it, but the fact is that it's really horrible that we have to become inured to abuse, right? Obviously, no one should be name called, and again, as I said, that it's not only one or the other person. It's not just me. It's not just other people you named. I mean, this is a country where during elections, you hear all kinds of really nasty things that are said about women who are like our political leaders, the highest, most powerful female political leaders. I mean, Sonia Gandhi, the kind of things that are said about her. It's just absolutely disgusting that even at this age and at the stature at which she is, this is what she has to listen to. Then who is anyone else, right? I mean, I will, however, say that while obviously I don't endorse anyone being name called in public, I think that women would also do well not to loosely use abusive language against other people. I don't think it's okay to call people rapists just because you feel like in a tweet. I don't think it's okay to make fun of people's depression and say that people depression ka dhanda chalate hain. And that kind of a comment also lowers public discourse. So women should also not be sort of participating in lowering the standards of public discourse. I always say that in India there may not be gender equality anywhere else, but on the matter of trolling and in the matter of abuse and slander on social media, there is great gender equality. Women are doing it, especially, and I'm sorry I'm saying it so frankly, but especially on the right wing, and I know this personally, the kind of abuse I have faced from women on the right is just, it's pretty, makes me feel good that, they're really walking shoulder to shoulder with men on that count.
Well, it's disgusting, anyone who actually levels that kind of abuse. And that's why I want to ask, coming back on that issue of, as I said, that you've got lots of tweets today after Kangana Ranaut has become the first Bollywood actor to get Y+ security, with people saying, well, you faced so many threats online, how come you haven't got it? And the fact that whatever you may agree or disagree with Kangana's views, she has a right to them. But the point is that the Home Minister of Maharashtra did say that she doesn't have a right to live here anymore. You've had Sena women workers say they'll slap her when she comes to the airport. You've had abuse used against her by Sena MP. Do you think Kangana should have got Y security?
I mean, I don't really want to comment on a particular case like that because I don't really know the threat perception and how real it is. Obviously, I do not endorse anyone being slapped around anywhere or any kind of public violence or either in speech or in action. I'd like to make that very clear. And I'm very grateful to the people who have on social media. And I know a lot of people have said that if anyone deserves Y security, it's Swara for the kind of abuse that she has received. And I just want to say that, personally speaking, in my personal capacity, if taxpayers' money has to be used, I'd rather it be used on issues of real development and, yeah.
But the interesting bit is that the Ministry of Home Affairs, one of the reasons they gave for giving Kangana Y security was because they said she had named certain big names in Bollywood as part of a drugs cartel. The whole perception now about Bollywood that drugs here are now par for the course, whether it's the Rhea arrest, but it's a much bigger nexus. Again, as Kangana tweeted and claimed that, and she named various big stars who should come forward and get drug tests done. Is this a reality in Bollywood today? We're seeing in Karnataka also actresses being arrested. Is drug taking common in Bollywood today?
Let's get one thing clear, ma'am. The thing is that Bollywood is not a homogeneous monolith, all right? Bollywood is basically a term that is given to a group of people who are all engaged in the business of making films. This includes not just actors, who of course get a very unfair percentage of the attention and the limelight, but films are made by, each film has a crew of almost 200 to 300 people working on it. This includes not just the creative sort of teams of the directors, the ADs, the costumes, the art, all of those people. It also includes technicians. It includes people who work on lights. It includes people who work on camera. It includes so many other kinds of technicians. It includes labor, our support staff, our spot teams. So the idea when you say that the whole of Bollywood or 99% of Bollywood is doing something, my question to that is 99% of who? What is the list? What is the 100%? Who are the people you are talking about? Are they every single person who's ever worked on a Bollywood film? What do you mean when you say Bollywood? And what do you mean when you say 99% of it? In my humble opinion, these statistics are ludicrous. They are absolutely ridiculous. They are based on no fact. They are based on no statistic that can be corroborated in any way.
Right.
And they sound like absolute rants of and hysterical imaginings of someone who is basically out to just lash out and accuse anyone who doesn't agree with her. And I'm very, very sorry, and I want to say this on national media, I'm very sorry to be saying this about a colleague of mine, but the fact is that the things that Kangana is saying, they are insupportable, they're ridiculous, they are slanderous, they cannot even be dignified. So I actually find it a bit bizarre that so much attention is being given to statements that are so obviously ludicrous. I think that Kangana is a very, very talented actor. She has got a lot of recognition and a lot of success from Bollywood. Her whole identity is actually given to her by Bollywood, and it's just unfortunate that she deems it fit to bite the hand that feeds her, and
Right.
and to slander and abuse the city that has given her a home, a job, an identity.
But let's just take it to another aspect, because interestingly, again, as I said, Kangana and you, two different ends of the spectrum. But in a sense, each of you are different outsiders. In fact, three different outsiders, whether it's Kangana, you, Sushant, all of you came as outsiders to Bollywood. And the first issues that were raised with Sushant's death were really about how Bollywood treats outsiders, whether nepotism played a part in his depression or led to his death in any way at all. That was the Mumbai police investigation was on. Do you think Bollywood needs to introspect on how it treats outsiders versus an inner club of film families?
So I think, ma'am, that's a very interesting question that you ask. Absolutely. Kangana, I, Sushant, Tapsi, Richa, so many of us are outsiders. Shah Rukh Khan is an outsider, Deepika is an outsider, Amitabh Bachchan sir was an outsider. I think that I will say, however, that you're right, that there are many things about which Bollywood needs to introspect.
Right.
Whether it's nepotism, whether it's the kind of films we make, whether it's sexism in the industry, or Me Too, or many other issues. However, the manner in which this debate has the kind of tone and the kind of path that this whole debate has taken, it is no longer a conversation, it is no longer a debate, it is a one-sided vilification of Bollywood. It is a one-sided sort of slanging match of throwing all kinds of slanderous accusations on Bollywood, and I don't actually think that it is an atmosphere that is conducive to any kind of introspection or any kind of really for Bollywood to be able to ask itself any hard questions.
Right. I mean, I think you're right. It's all got lost in this kind of media hysteria, slander, what's true, what's not, what are the actual facts. Your final thoughts. And Swara, I have to say once again that it really is the Bollywood young actors like yourself, the women actors who speak up. We always see the others staying silent. It's always people like you who speak up, even despite the huge trolling and vilification you go through online. What are your final thoughts today on the Rhea arrest and the larger issues?
I mean, my final words are really words of introspection. I hope that now that Rhea has been arrested, our collective sort of we're satiated as a public, but I hope that we will also take this moment to introspect on our own behavior as news consuming audiences, as news producing media houses and channels, and I really hope that she and her family are able to come out of this. I think that the law must sort of take its course, and I think that she has submitted to the law and she has cooperated fully with the investigation, and she should be credited for that. I don't think she's a criminal, and I really hope that she is able to come out of this and rebuild her life, and ultimately I hope that justice is served to everyone who's been wronged, and there are more than one people who have been wronged in this whole case.
Swara Bhasker, thank you for speaking out that justice is served to the many people wronged in this case. Thanks for speaking to NDTV.